Money. It's not just about numbers, spreadsheets, or stock markets. It's about emotions, decisions, and the stories we tell ourselves. Why do some people get rich while others struggle? Why do smart people make terrible financial decisions? And why does money seem to bring out the best and worst in us? Welcome to Summarised One, English, where we dive deep into the world of ideas. Today, we're unraveling the secrets of the psychology of money by Morgan Housel, a book that doesn't just teach you how to manage money, it teaches you how to understand it. So, grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's explore the fascinating psychology behind wealth, greed, and happiness. Morgan Housel reveals the secrets of the book The Psychology of Money with the help of 8 chapters, and here, Chapter 1. No one's crazy. The tale of 2 investors. In a quiet town in Ohio, there lived 2 men who couldn't have been more different in their approach to money. Richard, a factory worker, had never studied finance, never read a book on investing, and didn't even follow the stock market. Yet, by the time he retired, he had quietly amassed millions of dollars. On the other hand, James, a highly educated financial expert with degrees from prestigious universities, made a fortune on Wall Street, but lost it all in a series of risky bets. How did this happen? Was James reckless? Was Richard lucky? People who lived through the 1970s saw high inflation rates and learned to fear rising prices. They might avoid debt at all costs. Younger generations who grew up in the 2000s never experienced extreme inflation. They may feel comfortable taking on debt because they assume interest rates will always stay low. Both groups make decisions that seem rational based on their experiences, but their experiences are completely different. The importance of empathy in finance. Housel argues that when we talk about money, we should have more empathy for other people's perspectives. Instead of saying, "That's a stupid financial decision," we should ask, what experiences led them to think that way? For example, a person who avoids the stock market might not be irrational. They might have watched their parents lose everything in a crash. A person who spends extravagantly might not be irresponsible. They might have grown up poor and now want to enjoy life. Understanding that everyone sees money differently helps us make better financial decisions without judging others. Key lessons from Chapter 1. 1. Everyone makes financial decisions based on their own experiences, not just logic. 2. Luck and risk play a huge role in financial success and failure. 3. Different generations and backgrounds shape different money beliefs. 4. Financial debates often go nowhere because people have different perspectives. 5. Empathy is key. Understanding others' financial behaviors helps us make better decisions. Final thought. Richard, the factory worker, never studied finance but understood one thing. Patience and discipline matter more than intelligence in building wealth. James, the Wall Street investor, knew the technical aspects of finance but ignored the emotional side, leading to his downfall. Both men made choices based on their personal experiences. Neither of them was crazy. And neither are you. Chapter 2. Luck risk. The 2 sides of the same coin. Imagine 2 men standing at opposite ends of a grand, lavish ballroom. One is beaming with confidence, surrounded by reporters, microphones thrust toward him as he shares his secrets to success. The other stands alone in the corner, head lowered, quietly sipping a glass of water, ignored by the world. The first man is a billionaire investor. His rise to the top is legendary. He took bold risks, trusted his instincts, and now commands an empire worth billions. People call him a genius. The second man was once a rising star on Wall Street. He, too, took bold risks. He, too, trusted his instincts. But one unexpected twist, a market crash, an unforeseen scandal, wiped out his fortune. Now, he is remembered not for his brilliance, but for his failure. What separates these 2 men? Was one smarter, more hardworking, or more visionary than the other? Or was it something else, something more invisible yet powerful? Morgan Housel, in The Psychology of Money, argues that the answer lies in two words: luck and risk. The story of Bill Gates and Kent Evans, a tale of luck and tragedy. To understand how luck and risk shape our lives, Housel tells the story of two young boys, Bill Gates and Kent Evans. In 1968, Bill Gates was a student at Lakeside School, a small private school in Seattle. This school had something that almost no other school in the world had at the time: a computer. This was a game changer. In an era when even the most advanced universities struggled to provide computing resources, Lakeside offered its students hands-on access. Bill Gates, fascinated by computers, spent endless hours programming, debugging, and learning. This access gave him an edge, shaping the trajectory of his career. The result? Gates went on to build Microsoft, revolutionizing the technology industry. But Bill Gates wasn't the only bright mind at Lakeside. One of his closest friends was Kent Evans, a boy as brilliant and ambitious as Gates himself. They shared dreams of building a tech empire together. If things had gone slightly differently, Kent's name might have been just as famous as Bill Gates. But fate had other plans. Before they could even graduate, Kent Evans died in a tragic mountaineering accident. His life, full of promise, was cut short in a moment. This story highlights two fundamental truths. 1. Bill Gates' success wasn't just about talent and hard work. It was also about luck. He was lucky to attend one of the rare schools with a computer. He was lucky to have parents who encouraged his passion. He was lucky to have met people who shaped his journey. 2. Kent Evans' failure wasn't due to laziness or lack of intelligence. He simply encountered an unlucky event, an accident beyond his control. Luck and risk are two sides of the same coin. One gave Bill Gates a billion-dollar empire. The other took away Kent Evans' future in an instant. The invisible role of luck and success. When we look at successful people, we often hear about their hard work, discipline, and smart decisions. Rarely do we hear about luck, the fortunate circumstances that played a role in their rise. Consider the story of Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time. Buffett is undoubtedly brilliant, but his success was also shaped by luck in two key ways. 1. He was born in the right era. Had Buffett been born in the 1600s, his skills in stock picking would have been useless. But being born in the 20th century gave him the perfect environment to thrive. 2. He had the right mentors. Throughout his life, Buffett met the right people at the right time. People who guided him, mentored him, and gave him the wisdom to make better decisions. If any of these factors had been different, Buffett might not have become the Warren Buffett we know today. The invisible role of risk and failure. Just as success is often influenced by luck, failure is often shaped by risk, uncontrollable events that derail even the best laid plans. Take the example of Lehman Brothers, one of the most respected financial firms before the 2008 crisis. For decades, they made smart investments, grew their empire, and became a symbol of Wall Street's power. But in 2008, the financial world collapsed. Risk took center stage. Lehman Brothers, once untouchable, ceased to exist overnight. Did the people running Lehman suddenly become less intelligent? No, they simply faced an unexpected storm, one they couldn't control. This raises a crucial lesson. Just because someone fails doesn't mean they were foolish. Just because someone succeeds doesn't mean they were a genius. The danger of over-attributing success to skill. Housel warns that we often fall into the trap of hindsight bias, looking at successful people and assuming their actions alone led to their achievements. But this mindset is dangerous because it creates unrealistic expectations. Imagine two entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur A starts a company, makes bold decisions, takes risks, and becomes a billionaire. Entrepreneur B does the exact same things, but fails due to a market crash. If we only study Entrepreneur A, we might conclude that bold risks always pay off. But that's not true. The missing factor? Luck and risk. This is why following the exact footsteps of a successful person doesn't guarantee the same outcome. The world is far more random than we like to admit. A balanced perspective, appreciating luck while managing risk. So, if luck plays such a big role, does that mean hard work and skill don't matter? Not at all. The key is balance. Recognize the role of luck in your success. If you've done well, acknowledge the fortunate circumstances that helped you. This makes you humble and grateful. Recognize the role of risk and failure. If someone fails, don't be quick to judge. They might have done everything right, but faced an uncontrollable setback. This makes you empathetic and wise. Focus on controlling what you can. While you can't control luck, you can control your actions, decisions, and mindset. The best strategy? Position yourself to benefit from luck while protecting yourself from risk. Final thoughts. The lesson of luck risk. Imagine standing at a busy intersection. You see a man recklessly speeding through red lights and somehow making it to the other side unharmed. You also see a careful driver who obeys every traffic rule but gets hit by a drunk driver. The reckless man might think he's a brilliant driver. The careful driver might feel like a failure. But in reality, random chance played a huge role in both outcomes. Life, business, and investing work the same way. Housel's lesson in this chapter is clear. Be cautious when taking full credit for success, and be kind when judging failure. Because in the grand scheme of things, luck and risk are always at play. This chapter challenges us to rethink the way we view success and failure. It teaches humility, wisdom, and resilience. And most importantly, it reminds us that while luck and risk shape our lives, our attitude toward them is what truly defines us. Chapter 3. Never enough. The price of wanting more. In a grand New York penthouse, a billionaire sits on a leather couch, sipping the finest whiskey. He has everything: yachts, private jets, mansions in 5 countries. Yet, he stares blankly at the skyline, feeling empty. In another part of town, a middle-class teacher walks home from work, carrying groceries. She earns a modest salary, has a small house, and spends weekends with family. Unlike the billionaire, she smiles, content with her life. What separates these two people? One word: enough. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel argues that knowing what is enough is one of the most powerful skills in life. Yet, most people never learn it, chasing wealth, status, and success without realizing that the pursuit of more has no finish line. This chapter explores why we struggle to recognize enough and the dangers of never being satisfied. The fall of Rajat Gupta, when more is never enough. Rajat Gupta had it all. Born in India, he lost his parents at a young age, worked hard, and rose to become the CEO of McKinsey Company, one of the most prestigious consulting firms in the world. He was rich, respected, and admired. But for Gupta, success wasn't enough. He wanted more. After retiring from McKinsey, he started mingling with Wall Street's elite, including billionaire hedge fund manager Raj Rajaratnam. Gupta, already worth over $100 million, still craved more wealth and status. Then, temptation struck. Rajaratnam was making enormous profits through insider trading, illegally using confidential information to buy stocks before prices soared. Gupta, already incredibly wealthy, decided to join in. He didn't need the money. He had more than enough to live comfortably for the rest of his life. But greed is never logical. It whispers, you could have even more. Why stop now? Soon, the FBI caught Gupta. In 2012, he was convicted of insider trading, sentenced to 2 years in prison, and lost everything: his fortune, reputation, and legacy. What's the lesson? Gupta had everything, but still wanted more. and that desire destroyed him. The hedge fund billionaire who lost it all. In the 1990s, a hedge fund named Long-Term Capital Management (LTCM) was run by some of the smartest minds in finance, including 2 Nobel Prize winners. Their strategy was brilliant, and for a while, they made enormous profits. But instead of cashing out when they had enough, they wanted more. They started taking bigger and riskier bets, borrowing billions to multiply their returns. Then, in 1998, the unexpected happened. Russia defaulted on its debt. The markets crashed, and LTCM lost everything in weeks. Had they stopped earlier, they could have walked away as one of the richest funds in history. But they didn't know when to stop. Housel's lesson: the hardest financial skill isn't making money, it's knowing when to stop chasing more. The problem with just a little more. Why do so many people struggle with knowing what's enough? Because there is no finish line. 1. If you earn $100,000, you want $200,000. 2. If you have $1 million, you want $5 million. 3. If you own 1 house, you want 2. Every time you reach a goal, the bar moves. Society constantly tells us we need more money, more status, more luxury. But here's the truth. Someone will always have more than you. You might be rich, but someone else is a billionaire. You might have a mansion, but someone else owns an island. You might have fame, but someone else is worshipped like a god. If you define success by comparing yourself to others, you will never be satisfied, because there will always be someone richer, more famous, or more powerful. The pursuit of more never ends. The trap of lifestyle inflation. Imagine a man named David. In his 20s, he earns $50,000 a year and is happy with a small apartment and a used car. In his 30s, he earns $200,000 and upgrades to a luxury home and a sports car. In his 40s, he earns $1 million, but now feels pressure to own a yacht and a private jet. No matter how much he earns, his expenses rise with his income. He never feels rich, because every time he levels up, his expectations rise, too. This is lifestyle inflation, where people increase their spending as they make more money, always feeling like they need more to be happy. But true wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you need to be satisfied. The story of Warren Buffett, a man who knows enough. One of the wealthiest people in history, Warren Buffett, has a net worth of over $100 billion. Yet, he still lives in the same modest house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He doesn't own yachts, luxury cars, or private islands. Buffett could afford anything, but he understands something most people don't. More money won't make him happier. Unlike Raja Gupta, who risked his fortune for more, Buffett never let greed control him. His philosophy: if you risk something you need for something you don't need, you will lose. Knowing enough is what makes Buffett different from those who destroy themselves chasing more. The paradox of happiness and wealth. Psychologists have studied the relationship between money and happiness for decades. What they found is surprising. After a certain point, more money doesn't make you significantly happier. In the United States, studies show that once a person earns around $75,000 to $100,000 a year, the emotional benefits of making more money begin to fade. Beyond that point, extra wealth may add comfort or luxury, but it doesn't increase day-to-day happiness. Why? Because happiness is more about contentment and freedom than sheer wealth. 1. Contentment means being satisfied with what you have rather than constantly chasing more. 2. Freedom means having control over your time, being able to choose how you spend your days. The billionaire in the penthouse might have all the money in the world, but if he's trapped by the need to accumulate more, he's not truly free. Meanwhile, The middle-class teacher who spends time with loved ones and enjoys life's simple pleasures may feel happier because she knows when to say, "I have enough." Housel argues that money is a tool, not a scorecard. If you let it define your self-worth, you will never be satisfied because the goalpost always moves. Why knowing enough is the ultimate financial skill. At its core, never enough is a cautionary tale. It warns us that the desire for more, when left unchecked, can destroy even the most successful people. So, how do you avoid the trap of never enough? 1. Define your enough. Ask yourself, how much money do I need to live a good life? Be clear on what truly matters, whether it's financial security, family time, or personal freedom. 2. Avoid comparison. There will always be someone wealthier, more famous, or more powerful. The key to happiness is focusing on your journey, not someone else's. 3. Prioritize freedom. Money can buy many things, but the most valuable asset is time. Aim for financial independence, where you can control how you spend your life. 4. Resist lifestyle inflation. Just because you earn more doesn't mean you need to spend more. True wealth comes from being satisfied with less than you could afford. The final lesson, what really matters. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to die with the biggest bank account. It's to live a life that feels rich in every sense of the word. Morgan Housel leaves us with a simple but profound truth. If you don't know when to stop, you risk losing everything. But if you know what is enough, you will always be rich. So, ask yourself, what is enough for you? Chapter 4. Confounding compounding. The hidden magic of compounding. A man stands at the edge of a vast forest, staring at a tiny sapling he planted years ago. When he first planted the seed, it was barely noticeable, just a small shoot in the dirt. For years, it seemed to grow slowly, almost imperceptibly. But then, something remarkable happened. One year, the sapling doubled in size. Then, it doubled again, and again. Eventually, the man stood before a towering tree, its branches reaching the sky, its roots spreading deep beneath the earth. This is the power of compounding, the silent force that turns small, steady growth into something extraordinary over time. In the psychology of money, Morgan Housel argues that compounding is the most powerful force in finance. Yet most people fail to understand its true impact. This chapter explores why compounding works, why it's often overlooked, and how harnessing its power can lead to unimaginable wealth. The story of Warren Buffett, the billionaire who mastered compounding. Warren Buffett is one of the wealthiest people in history, with a net worth exceeding $100 billion. But here's a surprising fact. Over 90% of his wealth came after his 65th birthday. How is this possible? Many people think Buffett became rich because he's a genius investor. That's only partially true. The real reason is that he started investing when he was 10 years old and never stopped. If Buffett had started investing in his 30s, like most people, he wouldn't even be a billionaire today. His secret wasn't just smart investing, it was time. The longer your money compounds, the more powerful it becomes. This leads to a crucial lesson. Compounding isn't about how high your returns are, it's about how long you let them grow. The chessboard and the grains of rice, a lesson in exponential growth. Centuries ago, a clever mathematician approached a king with a simple request. Give me 1 grain of rice on the first square of a chessboard, then double it on each square. The king laughed. That's nothing, he said, granting the request. For the first few squares, the rice seemed insignificant. Square 1, 1 grain. Square 2, 2 grains. Square 3, 4 grains. Square 4, 8 grains. By square 10, the king was mildly surprised. There were 1,024 grains of rice. By square 20, there were over 1,000,000 grains. By square 40, the king panicked. The amount of rice was now in the trillions, enough to cover an entire kingdom. By square 64, the number was 18 quintillion grains, more rice than the entire planet could produce. What started as a tiny request had grown into something unfathomable. This is how compounding works. In the beginning, growth seems slow, but given enough time, it becomes unstoppable. Most people fail to grasp this because our minds aren't wired to think in exponential terms. We think in linear growth adding, not compounding growth multiplying. Why most people underestimate compounding? Housel explains that compounding is often misunderstood because 1. Its effects are invisible at first. In the early years, compounding looks unimpressive, leading people to abandon their investments too soon. 2. We expect quick results. We live in a world of instant gratification where people want fast money. But compounding is slow at first and only shows its magic decades later. 3. We focus on short-term volatility. Many investors panic over market ups and downs, forgetting that compounding works best over the long run. Imagine two people investing. Investor A earns 15% per year but invests for only 10 years. Investor B earns just 8% per year but invests for 50 years. Who ends up wealthier? Investor B, by a huge margin. The power of time beats the power of high returns. The story of Ronald Read, the janitor who secretly built an $8 million fortune. Ronald Read was a janitor and gas station attendant who lived a humble life. He never earned more than an average salary. But when he passed away, his secret was revealed. He had accumulated over $8 million. How? He started investing early. He consistently saved and invested in solid companies. He never touched his investments, letting them compound for decades. Ronald Read didn't have a high-paying job, but he had something far more valuable: patience. Compare this to high-earning professionals who make millions but spend recklessly, never allowing their money to grow. The lesson? Earning a lot of money doesn't make you rich, compounding does. Why trying to time the market is a fool's game. Many investors try to get rich fast by predicting when markets will rise or fall. But history shows that even the smartest professionals fail at market timing. If you invested $10,000 in the stock market in 1980 and left it alone, you'd have over $1.5 million today. If you tried to time the market and missed just the best 30 days, your returns would be cut by half. The lesson? It's not about when you invest, it's about how long you stay invested. Compounding beyond money, the hidden benefits in life. Housel explains that compounding isn't just about money. It applies to everything in life. 1. Knowledge compounds. If you read one book a month, you might not feel smarter immediately. But over 10 years, you'll have read 120 books, transforming your knowledge. 2. Relationships compound. A single conversation may not seem important, but if you consistently nurture relationships, they grow into lifelong bonds. 3. Habits compound. Eating healthy once won't make a difference, but doing it every day leads to long-term health. Compounding works in everything, good and bad. Just like money compounds, bad habits also grow over time. A small mistake, if repeated, can turn into a disaster. The lesson of compounding patience. One of the biggest challenges with compounding is staying patient. Most people give up before they see results. Think about a farmer planting seeds. The crops don't appear immediately. A bodybuilder training for years. Muscles don't grow overnight. An artist painting daily. Mastery takes decades. Compounding rewards those who stay in the game the longest. The key isn't chasing big wins, it's consistency over time. Final thoughts. the magic of time and patience. In finance, in knowledge, in life, the greatest rewards go to those who understand the power of compounding. Housel's lesson in this chapter is simple. Compounding doesn't rely on earning the highest returns. It relies on earning good returns for the longest period of time. Most people underestimate compounding because they're impatient. But those who grasp its power, like Warren Buffett and Ronald Reagan, reap rewards beyond imagination. So whether it's your finances, knowledge, or relationships, remember, start early. Stay consistent. Be patient. Because compounding is the closest thing to magic that exists in the real world. Chapter 5. Getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. 1. The tale of two investors. The rise of Richard. Richard was the embodiment of success. He had grown up in a modest home, but he was ambitious. He studied finance, worked on Wall Street, and understood market trends better than most. In his early 20s, he took calculated risks, investing in high-growth stocks, leveraging his portfolio, and making bold bets on emerging companies. His strategy paid off. By the time he turned 35, Richard had amassed a fortune. He lived in a penthouse overlooking Central Park, owned a luxury yacht, and had an enviable social circle. He had done it. He had gotten wealthy. But wealth is a tricky thing. It doesn't just require intelligence to acquire. It requires wisdom to keep. Richard loved taking risks because they had worked for him before. So when an opportunity arose to invest in an unproven but high-potential tech startup, he put in a large chunk of his net worth. This company is the future, he told his skeptical friends. If this works, I'll double my fortune. The market, however, had other plans. A financial downturn, some regulatory issues, and a few poor management decisions led to the collapse of the company. In just 2 years, Richard lost almost everything. His problem wasn't intelligence or a lack of ambition. It was an inability to switch from getting rich to staying rich. The steady life of Sarah. Sarah, on the other hand, was different. She wasn't a high-flying investor. She worked a regular job as a schoolteacher. She never tried to time the market, never chased high-risk investments, and never took out huge loans to leverage her portfolio. She simply saved diligently, invested in safe index funds, and let time do its magic. Over the years, her wealth grew, not explosively, but consistently. She didn't drive a sports car or live in a mansion, but she had something more valuable, financial security. By the time she retired, she had a multi-million-dollar portfolio. She didn't achieve this by taking big risks. She achieved it by avoiding stupid risks. The difference? Survival mindset. Richard and Sarah illustrate a fundamental truth about money. Getting rich and staying rich are two entirely different skills. Richard mastered the first skill. He was great at spotting opportunities and taking risks. But he failed at the second. He didn't know when to stop gambling. Sarah, on the other hand, wasn't obsessed with maximizing gains. She was obsessed with not losing what she already had. And in the game of wealth, survival is everything. 2. The role of luck and risk. Morgan Housel, the author of The Psychology of Money, emphasizes a crucial lesson. Luck and risk are siblings. For every success story like Richard's, there are dozens of others who followed the same strategy but failed. Similarly, Sarah's slow and steady approach could have been disrupted by unforeseen risks, maybe a medical emergency, maybe a personal crisis. The point? You can't always control luck, but you can control how much risk you expose yourself to. Richard chased luck. Sarah managed risk. 3. The trap of overconfidence. Richard's downfall wasn't just bad luck, it was overconfidence. He assumed that because he had won before, he would always win. This is a common mistake in finance. When people make money, they assume they have a special skill, but often, their success is just the result of a favorable market cycle. This is why the best investors, from Warren Buffett to Charlie Munger, Focus on surviving first, growing second. 4. The key to staying rich: humility plus frugality. Sarah wasn't just cautious, she was humble. She never believed she could outsmart the market. She never thought she was special. And because she didn't chase extravagant wealth, she was able to keep what she had. In contrast, Richard's downfall was fueled by greed. The desire for more blinded him to the risks he was taking. Housel explains that staying rich requires two qualities. 1. Humility. Accept that you don't know everything, and that luck plays a role in success. 2. Frugality. Avoid unnecessary risks and expenses. 5. The power of longevity. There's a reason Warren Buffett is one of the richest men in the world. It's not just because he's a great investor. It's because he's been investing consistently for over 80 years. The real key to wealth isn't making the biggest bets. It's staying in the game long enough for compounding to work its magic. Sarah never tried to double her money overnight. She just stayed invested, letting decades of compounding do the heavy lifting. Richard, however, tried to accelerate his wealth. But in doing so, he forgot the most important rule: the longer you stay in the game, the higher your chances of winning. 6. Conclusion: wealth is a game of survival. At the end of the day, getting rich is about being bold. But staying rich is about being careful. Richard's story teaches us that even the smartest investors can fall if they take too many risks. Sarah's story shows that slow, steady, and cautious investing can lead to long-term success. The takeaway? If you want to build lasting wealth, don't focus on maximizing returns. Focus on minimizing the chances of ruin. Because in the world of money, staying in the game is the most important thing you can do. Chapter 6. Tails, you win. 1. The curious case of Apple's beginnings. In 1976, a young Steve Jobs walked into an investor's office with an idea that seemed small at the time, but would later shape the world. The investor, Mike Markula, saw something others didn't. He wrote a check for $250,000, giving Apple the push it needed to launch. Fast forward a few decades, and Apple became one of the most valuable companies in history, making Markula's early investment worth billions. But here's the interesting part. Markula had made many investments. Some failed. Some barely returned anything. But one, just one, turned out to be so successful that it didn't just cover his losses, it made him incredibly wealthy. This is the power of tail events, rare, unpredictable successes that drive the majority of results. 2. What are tail events? A tail event is an outlier, an occurrence so extreme that it dominates everything else. In finance, it's a single investment that makes up for 100 bad ones. In business, it's one product that defines a company's success. In history, it's a single discovery that changes the world. Morgan Housel explains that most of the time, success is not evenly distributed. Instead, a tiny percentage of events drive the vast majority of outcomes. This is known as the power law, where a few big wins outweigh many small losses. 3. The story of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is one of the richest men on the planet, but his secret isn't just smart investing. It's patience and an understanding of tails. Over his lifetime, Buffett has made thousands of investments. But if you look closely, just 10 of those investments account for over 90% of his wealth. Imagine that, thousands of decisions, but only a handful made all the difference. Buffett himself admits, "We've owned thousands of stocks over the years. Most of our gains came from just a few." This is why investing isn't about being right all the time. It's about being right occasionally, but in a way that makes a massive difference. 4. Disney. One movie changed everything. Walt Disney struggled for years to make his animation studio successful. He made cartoons, short films, and even a few full-length movies. But nothing truly broke through. Then, in 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was released. It became the highest-grossing animated film of its time and turned Disney into a household name. Before Snow White, Disney was just another struggling studio. After Snow White, Disney became a media empire. One tail event, one extraordinary success, changed everything. And this isn't unique to Disney. Amazon started as a bookstore, but it was AWS Amazon Web Services that became its most profitable division. Google experimented with different ideas, but its search advertising model became the golden goose. Nike sold shoes, but the Air Jordan deal skyrocketed its success. In every case, a single tail event drove the majority of the success. 5. The illusion of consistency. Most people believe that success follows a neat, predictable path. Study hard, get a good job, work your way up. Start a business, grow steadily, and expand. Invest wisely, make steady returns, and retire rich. But reality isn't that neat. Success is messy. It's random. It's often driven by one or two breakthroughs, not steady progress. Yet, we tend to ignore the randomness of success. Think about failed startups. Many of them had great teams, great products, and great execution, but they never had that one lucky break. On the other hand, some companies succeed despite their mistakes simply because they catch a tail event at the right time. 6. The problem with perfectionism. People who chase perfection often struggle to succeed because they expect every decision to be a winner. But investing in life doesn't work that way. Even the best investors lose money on most of their bets. Even the best entrepreneurs fail multiple times before hitting gold. What separates winners from losers is not the absence of failure. It's the ability to stay in the game long enough to hit one big success. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Jeff Bezos launched multiple failed businesses before Amazon took off. The lesson? You don't need to be right all the time. You just need to be right once in a way that matters. 7. How to use tail events to your advantage. Housel suggests a few key takeaways from the power of tail events. 1. Expect to be wrong most of the time. Investors like Warren Buffett don't aim to be right on every stock. They just need a few big winners. Similarly, in life, you'll make mistakes. But one great decision, one tail event, can change everything. 2. Take lots of shots. Since you don't know which idea will be your Snow White or your Amazon Web Services, you need to experiment. Writers should write many books, knowing that one might become a bestseller. Entrepreneurs should launch multiple ideas, understanding that one might take off. Investors should diversify, knowing that one stock might outperform all the others. 3. Stay in the game. You can't predict tail events, but you can position yourself to benefit when they happen. Keep investing, even when the market looks bad. Keep creating, even if previous projects didn't succeed. Keep learning, even if past efforts didn't pay off. Because when the tail event does come, you need to be ready. 8. The ultimate takeaway. You only need one big win. At the end of the day, success is not about always winning. It's about winning big when it matters. You don't need to be right all the time. You don't need every investment to succeed. You don't need every idea to work. You just need one tail event, one extraordinary success, to make all the difference. And when it comes, tails, you win. Chapter 7. Freedom. 1. The true meaning of wealth. Imagine this. 2 men sit in a cafe in New York City. One, dressed in an expensive suit, checks his Rolex watch impatiently. His phone buzzes every few seconds. Emails, messages, meeting requests. He sighs, quickly paying for his coffee before rushing off to his next appointment. The other man wears a simple shirt and jeans. He stirs his coffee slowly, looking out the window with a quiet smile. His phone sits on the table, but it doesn't demand his attention. He has nowhere to be, no one to answer to. If you had to guess, who is the wealthier man? Most people would assume it's the man in the suit. After all, he wears luxury brands, carries the latest phone, and seems important. But what if the man in jeans is actually wealthier? Not because of how much money he has, but because of how much freedom he has. This is the core idea of Chapter 7. True wealth is the ability to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. Money isn't just about buying things. It's about buying control over your own time. 2. The illusion of success. Most people chase money because they think it will give them happiness. They work long hours, take on stressful jobs, and sacrifice their personal lives in the hope that one day they'll be rich enough to enjoy life. But what if that day never comes? Morgan Housel shares a critical insight. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. Too many people believe wealth means luxury cars, designer clothes, and a giant house. But the happiest, most financially successful people often don't flaunt their wealth. They use their wealth to buy freedom. 3. The man who owned a yacht, but had no time. Take the story of Michael, a high-powered investment banker. He had everything: a penthouse in Manhattan, a collection of expensive watches, and even a yacht docked in Miami. But here's the catch. Michael barely had time to enjoy any of it. His phone was always ringing. He had endless meetings. He worked 80-hour weeks. His family barely saw him. One day, while sitting in traffic on the way to his office, Michael saw a man jogging along the park trail. The man looked relaxed, enjoying the morning sun, with nowhere urgent to be. At that moment, Michael realized something shocking. That jogger was freer than he was. Despite all his money, Michael had no control over his time. He had bought luxury, but he hadn't bought freedom. 4. The value of an open Wednesday afternoon. Housel introduces a simple but powerful test. The ultimate measure of wealth isn't how much money you have. It's whether you can have a free Wednesday afternoon. Think about it. If your boss calls and says, I need you in the office immediately, can you say no? If a friend invites you on a last-minute trip, can you go? If your child asks you to play with them in the middle of the day, can you do it? For many people, the answer is no. They might have a good salary, a nice car, and an impressive job title, but they don't own their time. Housel argues that real wealth isn't about how much money you make. It's about how much control you have over your life. 5. The billionaire who chose simplicity. There's a famous story about Warren Buffett. Despite being one of the richest men in the world, Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958. He doesn't own a private jet. He doesn't chase luxury. Why? Because Buffett isn't trying to impress anyone. He's trying to keep his freedom. Unlike Michael, the stressed-out investment banker, Buffett's wealth gives him the power to say no to things he doesn't want to do. He has mastered the art of using money to buy time, not things. 6. Why more money doesn't always mean more freedom. Let's go back to the two men in the cafe. The man in the suit earns a 7-figure salary. The man in jeans earns far less. But the man in jeans has saved wisely, invested in a way that allows him to work less, and designed a life that prioritizes time over wealth. He has enough money to live comfortably, and he has total control over his schedule. On the other hand, the man in the suit earns far more, but his life is dictated by meetings, obligations, and stress. Who is truly rich? Housel's point is clear. Money itself isn't the goal. The goal is to use money to gain freedom. 7. The trap of lifestyle inflation. One of the biggest reasons people lose their financial freedom is lifestyle inflation, the habit of spending more as you earn more. You get a raise, so you buy a bigger house. You get a bonus, so you upgrade to a luxury car. You make more money, so you spend more on things that don't actually bring you happiness. Suddenly, you need your high-paying job just to sustain your expensive lifestyle. You're trapped. Housel argues that the key to financial freedom isn't just earning more, it's learning to be content with less. If you can keep your expenses low while increasing your income, you gain control over your time. And that is true wealth. 8. The fisherman and the businessman. There's an old story about a businessman and a fisherman. One day, the businessman sees a fisherman relaxing by his boat in a small village. Businessman, why aren't you out fishing? Fisherman, I've already caught enough fish for today. Businessman, but if you fish more, you can sell extra fish, make more money, buy a bigger boat, and grow your business. Fisherman, and then what? Businessman, then you can retire early and spend your days relaxing by the sea. Fisherman, but that's what I'm already doing. This story perfectly captures Housel's lesson. We often chase money so we can eventually have freedom, but in doing so, we give up the very freedom we're trying to achieve. 9. How to buy freedom with money. So, how do you actually use money to gain freedom? 1. Save more than you think you need. Most people save money to buy things, but true financial independence comes from saving money to buy time. A large savings account gives you the power to quit a job you hate. A well-invested portfolio gives you the ability to take time off when you need it. A strong financial foundation lets you choose what you want to do, not what you have to do. 2. Avoid unnecessary debt. The more debt you have, the more your life is controlled by someone else. A big mortgage means you must keep your high-paying job. Credit card debt means you must work more just to pay off old purchases. Financial freedom means removing obligations that limit your choices. 3. Redefine success. Most people define success as having more money. But real success is having enough money to control your time. Would you rather have a mansion but be stuck in endless meetings? Or have a modest home and the freedom to do what you love? Housel argues that the latter is true wealth. 10. The ultimate lesson: money buys time, not things. At the end of the day, the richest person isn't the one with the most money, it's the one with the most freedom. The goal isn't just to make more money, it's to use money wisely so you can live life on your own terms. Because in the end, the most valuable thing you can own isn't a luxury car or a fancy watch. It's your time. Chapter 8. The Man in the Car Paradox. 1. The envy that drives us. A cool breeze brushed against Ryan's face as he walked down the bustling streets of Los Angeles. The evening sun cast long shadows, glinting off the sleek exteriors of luxury cars parked along the road. He had just left a meeting with his real estate broker, who was trying to convince him to invest in a penthouse. Ryan wasn't particularly rich, at least not yet, but he wanted to be. He had spent the last few years building his online business, and while he was doing well, he wasn't at the level of true financial freedom. Yet, whenever he saw a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, his heart would race. One day, that'll be me, he thought. When I have a car like that, people will respect me. They'll admire me. I'll finally feel successful. This belief had been with Ryan since childhood. He remembered watching movies where the protagonist always had an expensive car, a sprawling mansion, and a tailored suit. It seemed like the ultimate measure of success. But there was something Ryan didn't realize. 2. The Man in the Ferrari. One evening, Ryan found himself at an upscale rooftop restaurant with his friend, Alex. As they sipped their drinks, a gleaming red Ferrari roared into the valet area below. Heads turned. Conversations paused. The sound of the powerful engine echoed through the air. Ryan nudged Alex. Look at that. That's the dream, man. Imagine driving that car through the city. Everyone would be staring at me, wishing they had my life. Alex smiled but said nothing. Instead, he asked, "Who do you think owns that car?" Ryan shrugged. "Some rich guy? Probably a celebrity or a businessman." "Do you admire him?" Alex asked. "Of course. I mean, look at that car," Ryan said, his eyes still locked on the Ferrari. Alex chuckled. "No, you admire the car. But do you actually care about the guy driving it? Do you even know who he is?" Ryan frowned. He had never thought about it that way. 3. The illusion of admiration. Alex leaned back in his chair and said, "This is what I call the man in the car paradox. Most people think buying a luxury car will make others admire them. But the truth is, people don't admire the owner. They admire the car itself." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "But having a car like that still means you've made it, right?" Alex nodded. "Maybe. But let's be honest. When you saw that Ferrari, did you think, wow, that guy must be really smart, hardworking, and successful? Or did you just think, that's a nice car?" Ryan hesitated. He realized he had been admiring the car, not the person inside it. "Exactly," Alex continued. "This is the paradox. People buy expensive things thinking it will earn them admiration, but in reality, those things only attract momentary attention. The admiration is directed at the object, not the owner." Ryan thought back to his childhood. He had always wanted wealth, but deep down, what he truly wanted was respect. He believed money would bring it. 4. Status versus wealth. Alex took a sip of his drink before continuing. "Look, I get it. Everyone wants status. But status is tricky because it's tied to other people's perceptions. It's fragile and fleeting. Wealth, on the other hand, is different." "How?" Ryan asked. "Wealth is quiet," Alex explained. "It's the money you don't spend. It's financial security. It's the ability to walk away from a bad job, to retire early, or to take care of your family. It's having options. That's real power." Ryan considered this. He had been so focused on looking rich that he hadn't thought much about being financially secure. Alex leaned forward. "Let me tell you a story." 5. The Hollywood producer and the waiter. Back in the 1980s, there was a young man working as a waiter in Beverly Hills, Alex began. One night, a famous Hollywood producer came into the restaurant, dressed in an expensive suit, flashing his gold watch. The producer bragged about his cars, his penthouse, and his connections with A-list celebrities. The waiter listened, nodding politely. But what the producer didn't know was that this waiter had been investing his tips into the stock market for years. He lived frugally, drove a modest car, and saved every dollar he could. Decades later, that waiter had quietly become a millionaire. He never flaunted his wealth, but he had something far more valuable than a flashy lifestyle. He had freedom. Meanwhile, the Hollywood producer, despite all his status symbols, was buried in debt. He had spent his entire life trying to impress others, never realizing that true wealth wasn't about appearances. It was about control over your time and life choices. Ryan was silent for a moment. "So you're saying, I've been chasing the wrong thing?" Alex smiled. "Not necessarily. Wanting success isn't bad. But if your goal is respect, a Ferrari won't give you that. If anything, it might make people resent you. Real respect comes from what you do, how you treat people, and what you contribute to the world." 6. What people truly admire. That conversation stuck with Ryan. Over the next few months, he started noticing the paradox everywhere. At business meetings, he saw wealthy executives who never showed off their wealth. They wore simple clothes, drove regular cars, and focused on growing their wealth, not displaying it. On social media, he noticed influencers flashing luxury watches and sports cars, but he wondered, are they actually rich? Or are they just trying to look rich? Ryan realized something profound. People don't admire possessions. They admire character, kindness, and meaningful achievements. 7. The shift in perspective. A year later, Ryan's business had grown significantly. He could now afford a luxury car if he wanted to. But when he thought about it, he didn't feel the same desire. Instead of buying things to impress others, he focused on investing in his future. He put money into assets, saved aggressively, and built a life where he had financial independence. One evening, he walked past a dealership showcasing a brand new Ferrari. He smiled, knowing that he could buy it, but didn't need to. And that was the ultimate power. 8. The lesson of the man in the car paradox. The man in the car paradox teaches a simple yet powerful truth. People don't admire you for owning luxury items. They admire the items themselves. True wealth is what you don't see. It's financial security, options, and freedom. If you're chasing admiration, focus on your character, generosity, and contributions, not on impressing people with material possessions. Ryan finally understood money wasn't about impressing others. It was about gaining control over his life. And that was worth more than any Ferrari. Final thoughts. The lesson from this chapter resonates deeply in a world obsessed with appearances. If you truly want respect, it won't come from what you own. It will come from how you live your life. And the wealthiest people? They don't care about showing off. They care about freedom, security, and meaningful relationships. That's the real definition of success. Money isn't just about math, it's about behavior. It's about understanding your emotions, your biases, and your goals. Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money is a masterpiece that will change the way you think about wealth. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Summarised One, English for more deep dives into the world's most fascinating ideas. And remember, the best investment you can make is in yourself. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep playing the long game.